Hey everyone, welcome to your bonus call for the month. Hopefully make up a bit for that short call we had where I was having tech issues. And today I want to do a little bit of catch up. So I want to hear how you guys are doing with your tapping exercises that I gave you guys from video 4. I've had a couple of you guys send me private messages about your experiences, which has been cool. But I also would like to hear if you can use the chat box as well, how that's been going, because I imagine it's been pretty profound. I have a couple of you guys have also scheduled private sessions with me, and that has been really intense. So if you did do that, feel free to talk about that as well. Okay, so just a little preface about what's coming in September. So September, we're going into anxiety and depression, and this is extremely highly requested. This is one of those things that I think remains an elusive thing to grab onto for a lot of people, and for me, it's just very clear. So I'm excited to present this in a way that maybe has never been presented to you before, that no one's ever talked to you about before, and to help you find your way through it without feeling like you're just always going to live with this anxiety or you're always going to live with this depression. And what's particularly cool about what's going to happen in September is that your daily work is going to change. And you will be facilitating healing for yourself in very real time. So I think that this is a very exciting thing for you guys to step into and to claim ownership of and to help walk yourself through your experiences. A couple things have already been uploaded into the September unit. There's a short tapping tutorial for anxiety and depression that I put in there, and there's also a meditation. Meditation is a little bit on the long side, but it is by my favorite meditation human, and it covers both the bridge of anxiety and depression, which is something that I was looking for. So that's already in there. The manual will be uploaded probably by the end of today, and then everything will be ready to go for September 1st. So that's a little bit of what's coming. People are texting me. Okay, never mind. Thought they couldn't get in for whatever reason. Okay, so that's a little bit of what's coming in September for you to be excited and aware of. So I would like to start with some sharing about your tapping exercises. So first of all, share in the chat box if you have been using the kind of tapping outline for your models that we talked about the week before. If you have, let me know. And if you, I don't know who's available to come on or not, but if you're available to come on and talk about your experience tapping on the model, that'd be awesome.
Hi, this is Victoria. I'm driving, so I can't text
on the
chat box, but I definitely am listening and participating.
Okay, can you share with us a little bit about your experience with tapping?
I've done tapping in the past. I didn't understand what it was for, and I would follow somebody on YouTube who's done tapping sessions, and I would just kind of like just repeat whatever he did. I didn't really feel that it was working because I wasn't, I guess, comprehending the meaning behind it. So this tapping exercise and using the, I guess, the model that you helped me with has really been helping the last few days. I did it twice this morning and then a few times yesterday and then before work. So I noticed that in addition to just meditating, it really helped to just calm me down, I guess, my anxiety, because when it comes to me and my issues, it's a lot of the self-worth. And so when I start to doubt myself, my anxiety just like spins out of control. So I was trying to tap on the fact that I don't believe that I can be successful. And then when you were helping somebody the last call where you were tapping on, I'm tired of feeling like this. I'm sick of it. I'm over it. I started doing a lot of that. And so I guess the second or third time around the tapping part, I was like, I'm so over this. I'm so sick of this. And just kind of talking through that. And it really did help to kind of clear my mind. I don't know if I was at a level 10 or anything high before I started, but I also really don't know if I can tell the difference unless I'm at a 10, because I always have the anxiety thoughts.
So the reason that I'm going to really ask you to gauge is because that makes you focus on what you're feeling. Okay. So a lot of times people who live with anxiety or live with depression, like that's just like a normal part of their life, they don't focus in. They don't have the capacity to like really distinguish what they're feeling. They just let this blanket feeling sort of like take over. So it's really important that before you start tapping, you do gauge, because the gauge, it helps you really pay attention to what you're feeling and where you are, and then you can make a new choice. You can make a distinction basically in what you're feeling. So even if you have to slow down a lot and maybe pick something specific to work on, that also helps with gauging. For example, if you think about inviting and you have anxiety, then I would specifically rate like 0 to 10, how do I feel about inviting people right now? If you have a sensation in your body, I would specifically rate 0 to 10, how are my shoulders feeling, or how is whatever feeling in my body? Does that make more sense? Like picking something very specific to gauge.
Yes, that makes sense. And I was going to ask also, I was tapping before I started working, but I didn't necessarily have any sort of numerical gauge before. I wasn't feeling like the anxiety. I just did it before work just to do it so that I don't get anxious.
Okay.
Are you supposed to tap when you are feeling at a high number?
There's no right or wrong time to tap. You can actually tap whenever. If you have a pattern in your life, like for example, you tend to fall off, right? And so you're tapping to give you like inspiration or motivation, you can tap for that. For example, you can even do a setup statement like, even though I'm about to work and typically I have resistance towards working. Or even though I'm about to work and because I've done so well this past week, I'm finding myself like maybe not wanting to follow through on my work. I deeply and completely accept myself, right? So those are some of the like switch-ins you can do to help you address even preventatively what's happening.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I actually do feel, what's the word? I'm proud of myself, I guess, that I was able to recognize this week that what I was doing, I was just, avoiding things. Mm-hmm. I was totally avoiding, and so the tapping came in at the right time, because I literally did arrange my entire bedroom, and it took me 2 days for the simple fact that I just wanted a nice clean room so I can work in. Like, did I really need that on a Tuesday and Thursday, or what, like during the week? No, I could have done that on the weekend.
Right. So that's important though, that you get the awareness, and then when you catch yourself doing it, you can then use the tapping to support you. That's really ideal that you can do that.
The tapping helped today because I was sitting down to work, the kids are at school, the baby's asleep, and I have plenty of time to work, and I'm scrolling through my grocery store app, like checking off coupons. Mm-hmm. I was like, whoa, okay, what are we doing here?
Right.
So yeah, I've been adding in more statements other than like the basic one that you gave me. Nice. That I know that I wander off, that I get lazy, that I try to avoid working, that kind of stuff. So
awesome. I just want to also say that I don't think Nancy would mind me sharing a bit of this, but sometimes that like self-worth stuff, there's really a deep origin behind it. So Nancy and I had a one-on-one session today, and it led her back to a memory when she was really young, like she was in 3rd grade, right? So 7, 8 years old. And it was really the origin of a lot of the beliefs that she has now. And she would have never put that together, right? It was like she just had this feeling about her work, her business, whatever, who she is as a person, and it's just been with her for a long time. And it wasn't until we started talking and coaching and moving through those layers that it led her down a really deep path that illuminated It's all right, Nancy. It illuminated a lot for her and her story. So I just want to kind of plug that in there, because if you're doing the tapping, you're doing the exercises that we talk about here, and you're still not seeing movement, or you're not getting down to that 0 to 1 place, or seeing like dramatic change, then I encourage you to do a private session, because you might need way more time to actually go in and dig up stuff. Because here, I mean, we can do a couple people, but it's usually a short session. It's only covering one aspect of what's happening. Like with her, we had to do we tapped on like 3 or 4 different things, because one thing would lead us to another thing, would lead us to another thing. And that's pretty much what EFT does, is like you start peeling back the layers and starts kind of leading you down. Plus, I'm coaching her as I'm talking to her, so I'm really trying to figure out what are the triggers, like what is actually happening here deep underneath the layers. So that makes a big difference when it comes to clearing stuff. Yeah, just wanted to drop that in there in case anybody is like struggling and can't get movement. The whole concept behind doing a model as well and tapping on the model, the reason I like that is because it really focuses your attention. Because when you do a model, you're now very, very specific. Like you're really putting your finger on the pulse of the problem, and that will really give you a much better result. So again, EFT is not meant to be practiced in general, like in generalities. You can't really gauge change. It's meant to be practiced specifically, applied specifically. So if someone comes to me, or someone did, one of my clients, complex PTSD. She has a lifelong laundry list of complex PTSD things that have happened to her that led to that diagnosis, right? Well, I can't just tap on that. I have to go memory by memory. So I help her select the memories that are the most triggering for her still, and I work literally through every single one until she can tell the story of the memory and have zero response. It can take a long time. It's very time consuming. So if that's like where you are, where you're like, I have a laundry list of different things going on, you need to tap on each one individually. It can't just be all together generalized.
So I have a question about the getting to the core of an issue that you have. Like for me, I feel like it's the self-worth. And I'm sorry, I hope it's okay that I just like jumped in again.
No, that's fine.
Oh,
That's fine.
But I feel like this is something I've worked on many times, or different, like through coaching with you, through different other avenues, and I still don't feel like I've kind of figured out the trigger or where the root comes from, or how to, get past it. Do you ever get to the point where you can get past it?
This is the difference is that with EFT, you can now disengage memories. And prior, we were just coaching on what you were telling me in the moment versus going back in the timeline and really addressing the memories. So if I asked you right now, give me 2 solid memories that you have and go as far back as you can when you experienced feeling worthless, you can pretty much, I can guarantee you can pull up at least 2 of those moments.
Yes.
Yeah, of course you can. So the reason you haven't moved through that is because those memories, if you still think about them, you still activate inside. You still have, on a 0 to 10, you will still grade yourself higher than a 0-1. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what EFT does and what EFT will do is it will move you through, it'll lower that activation so you get to a 0 to 1, and then when you're telling the story, you feel like an observer of the story instead of like you're in the story. And when you've done that, that's when you know that that activation thread is actually gone. That's when you know that that is gone, and it doesn't show up in your current timeline. So that's the kind of stuff that EFT does so brilliantly, is it like can pinpoint memories and then track them down. So I don't know where are you at a place right now where you can tap?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I can't tap. I'm on the highway.
Okay. So this would be something that we would either do like now, like in a session, I would help you do that, or in a private session, because you have to deactivate systematically all of those memories. So let's say you have 3 very strong memories in your mind. One when you were a kid, one when you became a mom, you became a very young mom, that's probably still activated in your nervous system. and then maybe one when you're older. We have to collapse every single one of those memories and get them down to a 0 to 1 so they're no longer activated. So when you tell the story, you don't feel triggered by it at all. And then when that happens, what you'll start to see is that in the present moment, the way you engage with your world is going to change. Like, all of a sudden your stress signals will drop. All of a sudden you won't react as hard. So actually someone who can really talk about that is Nancy, because Nancy had her first one-on-one session today, but she kind of voxered me and asked me a question to clarify her tapping, and the clarification alone really made a big difference. So Nancy, are you available to share about that? Like how when you clarified what to tap on, it really changed what you were feeling in your body? Because in her case, she is having physical pain. That's a lot of what she was feeling. You can speak or type, whatever is better for you. But if you are available, I'd like for you to share a little bit about that to kind of help Victoria see how that works. You can unmute yourself as well. He has power. I don't know if she's available to chat or not.
Can I ask a clarification before Nancy starts talking? So, for example, like my self-worth of success, or like my business, just for example, like I always doubt myself in my business, don't feel like I'm going to succeed, etc. That could be stemming from those past memories from childhood, middle, etc., and tapping through those and what did you say, erasing those memories?
Collapsing them.
Collapsing those memories can actually change the present, what I'm feeling right now with my business or with money or things like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
I need to schedule a session.
I think I got myself unmuted, Shakti.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. We can hear you.
All right. I'm sorry. What did you want to know again?
I wanted, because she wanted to understand the whole when you collapse memories or triggers from like maybe unrelated things that happen to you in your life, how it can affect you in the present moment. And I was talking about how when you started tapping on the model of pain in your body, it wasn't actually moving, it was actually increasing. And it wasn't until we clarified what to tap on that then you saw a dramatic drop in pain.
Right. Yeah. And I don't think I personally would have got to that point without you helping me, because I think I was just like a little too focused on what I was doing. Whereas with you observing me and guiding me through it, the memories just popped up. And so I was able to verbalize that to you and then have you tell me what to tap on.
Yeah, this makes it a lot easier, that's for sure. So you just had your first like one-on-one session. So can you talk a little bit about what that was like for anybody who's needing more support or more help?
So yeah, first of all, I kind of thought it was going to go in a different direction. I never would have guessed it was going to go where it ended up with at all. But just things like that shouldn't be surprising to me anymore. But I'm really, it was only like an hour ago, so I'm really kind of still processing it, and it's just like bringing up these things like, oh my gosh, like it's still now like things that have happened in the past that I can really pinpoint back to that specific time that have changed my behavior or changed like my way of thinking or, choices that I would have made. I can like pinpoint, and they're just like coming to me just one at a time. And it's kind of fascinating in some ways, because I don't know, it's like such a simple thing. But my
simple and subtle
memory of it throughout like 50 years,
Yes. That's because, body mind is a real thing. It's a complete unit. And we think, oh, I'm a 60-year-old adult, right? Whatever. Like, I know that what that person did, you know, I know where it came from and I understand XYZ thing. But what we don't realize is that subconscious mind is still 8 years old and pissed at that person that did that thing, right? Like,
Right.
she didn't move on. You moved on and you grew up, but she's still like there like this, like not feeling it. You know what I mean? And so we end up, and this is part of what I'm going to talk about in the anxiety and depression chapter of next month, is like we end up with all this anxiety and depression in our body and our mind, and we don't understand why. Sometimes we feel that way and we don't even have a reason to feel depressed or anxious. And I know that's happened to y'all because it happens to everybody. And the reason is because there's actually underlying layers of discomfort of times and places that we didn't address. And we just kind of like blipped through it and didn't integrate it. And then we become 30, 40, 50 years old and we have all of this pent up energy and unresolved stuff in our body, and we're trying to operate and function in the world around us, and we're hitting all these obstacles and we don't understand why. And this is why we're energy blocked, right? And so when you said all of a sudden after like an hour after our session, now all of these memories are resurfacing, it's because when you have an energy block, you're not receptive to all of this information. It's literally blocked out of your mind. It's exactly what happens when trauma occurs and then there's repression. That happened to me. I didn't remember any abuse until I was like in my 20s. And I was like, what? It started happening to me in my sleep. I started to remember, and I knew that it was a remembering and it wasn't a dream. I knew that. A similar thing happens with EFT. As soon as you start removing some veils and the energy starts moving through, all of a sudden, all this information that was just kind of categorized and stored away resurfaces and comes to the forefront and starts giving you even more information to support the change that you're doing. It's like the body is helping you remember and process so that you can move through it. And so what EFT does is it basically removes the blockage, the shield that's blocking the intention of movement, removes that, and then you just move right on through. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. And I just also want to make a statement that trauma doesn't have to be just big things. And I think that's something that we don't understand. We think, well, nobody beat me, or, you know, it wasn't a story about rape, or it wasn't a story about, you know what I mean? So we're like, why would I be traumatized? Why would this one thing that happened with this teacher or with this person, why would that have created trauma? And you have to understand that that's not how the brain works. That's not how the nervous system works. Literally anything can traumatize you, like anything. Anything. If you're little and you hear a very loud noise that was very unexpected and it just shook you to your core because it scared you on a sensory level, that's traumatizing. That can create trauma for loud noises forever, right? And it was just a loud noise. That happens. You're on the street, a car honks or an ambulance goes by. Like that kind of stuff can get programmed into your body. And depending on what thoughts are happening in the mind at the same time that the sound or the stimulus is happening, you can create trauma from it, okay? So I just want you guys to understand that trauma can happen from anything, and it will stay with you for a long period of time. And as Nancy said, like all these kind of simple things are coming up that in her adult mind, in her conscious adult mind, she's like, why would this be a thing? Like, why would this affect me? But it did at that time in that place. And so your job is to then like integrate those things so that your current self in this timeline is not continuing to carry the interruption and energy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a really good point too, because like I wondered that about myself all the time. I mean, I grew up in a, you know, very average middle class family where, you know, like nothing bad happened to us. You know, we had tough times, but there was no, you know, physical abuse or verbal abuse or anything like that. Well, not from my parents anyway. But
right, and so you think, like, generally speaking, I wasn't, you know, treated terribly, so I shouldn't have any trauma. A lot of people think that. Or I was born into privilege, therefore I shouldn't have any trauma. They have, like, privilege shame, which is a thing, by the way. And because you have privilege shame, you don't acknowledge anything that you're holding on to. You know?
mm-hmm.
That's a thing. Like, I don't have a right to talk about XYZ thing. I don't have a right to complain about XYZ thing because this other person had such a worse life. That does not matter to the soul. I just want everybody on this call, okay? This is going to be like a big thing right now, okay? The soul does not fucking care if you were born broke as shit or rich as shit. It doesn't care. The soul didn't come here with privileged eyes. Privilege is something that material reality creates. No soul is privileged. No soul is more privileged than another soul. We're just all souls and we have the same level of fucking privilege. Like, same, right? But in material reality, society tells us this is more privileged than this, and then we get all wrapped up in that, and then some of us take advantage of maybe positioning and then decide to treat other people like shit, and some of us feel so bad that we're in this position and other people are in worse positions, we don't talk about our shit, and then we just make all this drama about shit. Like, it's crazy to me. It's like this whole conversation about privilege is like, I understand where people are coming from, and it's like completely missing the mark. It's like standing in a forest staring at one tree and going, this fucking tree is the literal worst, when you're surrounded by like 350,000 trees and they're all different. It's like missing the forest for the trees, you know? You're like all pissed about the one tree that's standing in your way, and you have like all the other trees that are completely different that you could just choose to look at, you know, like the whole forest. Like, that's what the conversation about privilege can often be. It's a blinder, and it limits your capacity to like see what's actually around you, what's actually happening. So if this is your thing and you've spent so much of your life not talking about the things that bother you because you have this conception about like, well, they're worse than I am, so I shouldn't complain, that's a huge disservice, because your soul doesn't understand that. It's struggling to process stuff, and your body is struggling to process. Your body doesn't understand privilege. Your body's just your body. It's just a mechanism. It doesn't get it. It has things stored inside of it, and it wants to be free of it. And until you pay attention, you're never going to be free. You know, like, this is a really important message, because we in our minds make so much drama, we ignore what's happening in our vehicle. Like, we need to talk about this. Does this make sense? Like, that privilege is like not even a thing to your body or your soul, like, doesn't get it?
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
A conversation makes no sense today.
But it's not something that would consciously come to your mind, because we're so programmed, you know, to have these ideas about, you know, our social status and what it means.
We have been over-categorized. Like, categorized social economically, categorized in mental health, categorized in what's trauma and what's not trauma, categorized. Like, we have over-categorized ourselves to the part where we have literally compartmentalized our experience of being human. Yeah. Totally. Isn't that some shit? That is some shit. We are so compartmentalized, we don't even know what being human is anymore.
Yeah.
Crazy. And then we wonder why all this crazy stuff happens and people lose their mind and shoot people, and, you know, people do arson and burn down whole forests. Like, you know why that's happening? Because we don't even understand what being human is. We are so divided in our own minds, we can't feel shit outside of the drama that's in our mind. Can't feel empathy, can't feel connection, can't feel, because we are so split up. This is better than that, this is worse than that. Like, it's insanity. Healed people don't do things like that. People who have energy flowing in their body like freely and successfully don't do things like that. People that have learned to have self-compassion don't do things like that. And this is why it's so important that we continue to mind who we are and how we want to show up in the world, and take care of our mind and help as many people as we can take care of themselves. Because people who do good, people who feel good, do good. People who are struggling create struggle. That is just what it is.
Right. Like, that's like the law of attraction. You draw that to yourself.
And you create it, you propagate it, because that's what you radiate, right? So person who has drama in the mind only perceives drama goes out in the world and creates more drama because that's the lens they have on, right?
Right.
Someone who is like healing in the mind perceives healing, goes out in the world and generates healing because that's the lens that they're operating in. That's simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, it's like people who are colorblind, they can't see color. You could be all day long like, that is blue, and they're going to be like gray as fuck. Like, they can't see blue. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that they don't want to see blue. It's not that they can't see blue. So imagine that level of impairment. Like, that's how it is when the brain is focused on drama, you know?
Yeah.
So helpful to note. All right, any other questions or clarifications? Maybe you're working on something and you're stuck. We don't understand something and you want to understand it better. Nope. Y'all are masters.
I still got a lot going on from this morning.
Yeah. That's all right. You're in a process for a little bit. But I do recommend that you just let the memories come and you let your mind just kind of be with them and you recognize them and you move through them. You know, like that's, just let that be, you know, and don't try to categorize too hard or, you know, because sometimes what happens too is just having the memories resurface and just you having awareness of it is enough to collapse it. You know what I mean? You just see it and you know what it is and you're like, okay, next.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to do. Not hold any kind of story about it, just like observe it and let it go.
Yeah. And if in that a memory comes up and does surface and you do feel activated, then, you know, you have a tool, you know, for working through that. You can easily do.
And tap through.
Whatever. If the memory comes up, the activation is felt, get it down to 0 to 1, 0 to 2, that range. Neutral as possible.
Okay.
Cool.
I'm kind of curious to see how this is going to change the pain in my body also.
Because in that specific memory, right, of that happening, like the contraction that happens in your body, like just imagining a child, like when something falls on them or something happens and they go like this, right? Like your whole body just, right, does that for one. And for two, criticism is known to create rheumatoid arthritis. Like that is something Louise Hay was talking about in the fucking 80s. She was talking about how criticism and harshness oxidizes joints. So, yes.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay.
And because that's like one of the biggest memories you have of criticism, active criticism, you can imagine how that has contributed to the sensation in your body.
Yeah, because it was in my forearms where I was feeling that tingling. Like,
crazy.
Yeah, like, you know, when you've been tense for a long time and then you relax a little bit and you feel, like sore from the tenseness. That's what it was feeling like.
Or like when you get a massage and you suddenly your forearms start getting blood again and you're like, oh my God,
Right.
I have blood in my arms again.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And it's amazing that you tapped on something that wasn't even related to the pain in your hands, in your arms, and all of a sudden you're feeling the sensation in your arms. Like that's how intelligent the body is. That's how smart your nervous system is. That's how integrated your body is, that it goes to heal what needs to be healed. You don't even need to tell it where to go. You just need to find the source of the discomfort. Done.
Yeah.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. It's a perfect machine. Perfect. So good. And I know you know that because you both studied body work. So I know you understand that it is perfect indeed. Maybe now a little bit more so though.
Well, yes. The more you experience these things in your own body for yourself, the more it clarifies. I wish I could learn a different way. Other than having to experience the physical pain of it, but
right? Isn't that crazy? Yeah. And some people do. Some people have the capacity to learn without having pain, and some people don't. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Maybe
now you're wiser too, so maybe you won't be in so much pain moving forward.
yeah, we'll see. Well, I'll just be telling you. I'll let you know.
Yeah, keep me posted. I'm very interested.
I mean, my pain level since we started the tabbing before the session has come down tremendously, and the mobility in my hands has. I mean, because it was just excruciating before. I like when I would do the arm overhead movements and stuff. My ligaments were just snapping, like they were so taut.
They're like brittle almost.
Yeah, I really had trouble putting on a shirt that had to go over my head, or getting my bra hooked. And now I like turning a door handle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So everything's improved dramatically
That's incredible.
so far. Yeah.
So cool. So cool. Have everybody watching
I
this.
forgot to tell you that.
That's so cool. All right. Well, this was a bonus call, so it seems like not a lot of people need to catch up, so that's fine. So I'm going to end the call early, let you guys get back into your lives. But anybody who's watching the replay has any questions, or maybe you're doing the tapping and you just feel like you need maybe a private session. Maybe you've tapped on something that went a little bit deep and you're feeling like you want to pull out, or maybe you're feeling a little bit nervous about going some places you feel like you need to go. Please let me know. You guys do get an awesome discount because you're TAU students, or if you're in my downline, you're automatically going to get that discount. So we can schedule a private session for you and get that stuff out of the way, so it's not hanging over you and you can continue on your work. All right, my friends, until we meet again, have an awesome one. Bye.